Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead video leading up to the second half for The Walking Dead Season 9. In this one, we're going to give our thoughts on the brand new Whispers trailer we have, as well as go into some interviews with showrunner Angela Kang, where she discusses the Whispers' way of life and their philosophy. Alright, and spoiler warning as per usual if you guys are not caught up for The Walking Dead. So we have just about 1 month now to the premiere date for the second half of The Walking Dead Season 9. Absolutely cannot wait to see it come back here, to see it return. February 10th is the return date. So set your calendars, mark them off. Very exciting. We've got lots of little, snippets and teasers and details for this back half of The Walking Dead Season 9, but this one is one of the best they've done, probably aside from maybe the overall kind of promo video that they showed at the end of the first half of The Walking Dead Season 9. So a great new kind of Whispers teaser trailer where we get to see kind of their vision or them sort of stalking these survivors, which is very cool. And we get another sort of, in episode, what it looks like view of Alpha and Beta, which is very, very cool. So link will be in the description. This one was, posted, I think, by IGN first, so I'll put the link to IGN. You guys can definitely go and check it out, and it looks really cool. So we've got the Whispers. They are sort of, creeping around. They are sort of stalking our survivors here, and we can see kind of their reduced vision and a point of view with just kind of a spotlight circle in the middle for what they can see, surrounded by darkness in the point of view, which I always like when they do, and it's really cool to get to see kind of the Whispers' perspective of things. So you have it starts off with You've got Carol and Ezekiel just going for a nice stroll. You know how they're usually jolly and having a good time and making light conversation, this kind of thing, as they're being stalked. You have Alexandria, so it looks like the Whispers are going to find Alexandria as well too, not just the Hilltop. As you can see, Michonne, and then there's Judith and RJ, and they're being watched. You have Daryl, who's kind of moving through, who also is being watched by one of the Whispers. You can hear kind of a branch or something snap, or someone kind of making some slow footsteps around, and he's kind of freaking out too. So that's cool. You've got the Hilltop gates, which is nice to see. So and that's kind of the main focal point, it looks like, for where they're going to meet with. As we saw in the promo video for the second half, you have Daryl going out to meet with Alpha and the Whispers. So in this one, we actually get to see maybe prior to that, or we get to see them kind of going up on the survivors. And so you have them near the gates. And the coolest part, for sure, for me, at least as a comic book reader, is when they take the knives out of their sleeves. It's really cool. So you have Alpha there, you have Beta standing by her side, and then you have some of the Whispers as they take their, pretty large knives out of their sleeves, which is really cool. Because I remember in the Walking Dead comic book series, that was basically the best way to tell them apart, was to check for which ones were carrying weapons. Walkers don't take butcher knives out and start stabbing you, or they don't they don't do that. So if you see a walker or something that looks like a walker and it happens to be holding a knife, then it's probably a Whisperer. In the TV series version, they're so slick as to actually hide the knives up their sleeves, so until the very last moment to strike, you won't know the difference. And you see basically this little group that looks like a group of walkers kind of coming up on you here, but their behavior doesn't quite match, that of walkers exactly. And we see Alpha and Beta by her side with the shh, quiet whisper, right, type of thing. And it's like their whole it's like their whole thing, like, you're quiet, remember, as if they didn't know already, right? Don't say anything, barely, we whisper and the dead don't mind. So they really take this thing to heart, and it looks like they don't break character almost at all. It's like they always whisper, even when they're alone in the woods, standing to the side where nobody's around. They still are instructed to, or told to, keep very, very quiet. You've got the shh, and they do not belong here. So that's really cool. So I don't know if after the time skip, what Alpha is referring to there is like this, the way the Whispers probably view it is this type of society no longer belongs in the world. Like, this type of society doesn't fit with the current timeline for how many years into the zombie apocalypse they are. This type of of society should not still be there. So the Whispers will probably take issue with the survivors and kind of having these big walls and this type of life that they probably view as not correct, not right, not orderly in terms of the time and place in the zombie apocalypse that they are currently at. They should not have, in her opinion, it seems to me, they probably should not have survived this long. She probably views it as just some crazy luck that they're still alive, even because, the Whispers themselves, in terms of their sort of philosophy and kind of just going right into it, becoming the animal, becoming the walker sort of as close as you can without actually dying is the best way to go. So that's their sort of idea. You got the piercing blue eyes, Samantha Morton as Alpha with the very light blonde hair. So she's starting to become pretty easy to tell from the others when you have them around which one the leader is. It's the one next to the 7-foot tall guy who looks like something out of a horror movie. I don't know, Jason or something. So that's very cool stuff. I love the teaser trailer, and you guys be sure to leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about the feel so far of the Whispers in the Walking Dead TV series version. Awesome. So long story short, I love it. Now, there are a bunch of different interviews, so we'll touch on some of them kind of briefly here about the Whispers' philosophy and, how they survive in their ways. So it says from Angela Kang, quote, we'll get to know more about this group and their brutal survival of the fittest philosophy and how that really plays out in horrifying ways, she says. That includes learning more about Alpha and her second-in-command Beta, played by Ryan Hurst, and seen in the Season 9B trailer above. Then it says, quote, part of the story we reveal pretty early on in the back half of the season, the way that Alpha thinks and the way that she moves about the world, Kang said. To put on the skin of a dead person and walk around in the world and walk around amidst walkers, that really takes a certain kind of person. So let's stop there for a second. So that's kind of cool that they're kind of envisioning more in the TV series version. They're taking the characters from the comics for the Whispers, and they're kind of thinking, okay, if these were real people, what kind of psychology or philosophy would they have to match what they do? So we've seen their behavior, we've seen how they move around and how they act, and now we're going to get inside their heads a little bit and sort of find out, how they live or how they are. Kang added that while the Whispers might technically still be living humans, they've clearly lost some of their humanity in an attempt to survive. So it says, it really takes a pretty brutal philosophy to believe that it's not even worth trying to be something that approximates human in the way that we think of it, she said. The Whispers' way of thinking is in direct conflict, and this is what you can kind of see from this is me talking now, from what Alpha kind of says about them belonging here. That's kind of the way I'm thinking of that statement, that there's more to it than just saying, I don't like this place here, The Whispers' way of thinking is in direct conflict with the world these survivors are trying to build right now. While the survivors want something as close to civilization as possible, this group just doesn't even think any of that is worth preserving, Kang said. It's something that's really dangerous for our people to grapple with. Furthermore, don't expect any communication between the two groups to be reminiscent of anything from seasons past. This is kind of cool here because this sounds, pretty new compared to our, governor, villain, and Negan and this kind of thing, where there's posturing or there's, communication and making an attempt to maybe live together, or live and leave each other alone, that kind of thing. They're not a group that can be reasoned with in some of the same ways that the other villains have been that they've encountered in the past, Kang said. Here's what we do know. Now, this is from the site again. Things are about to get very brutal for these survivors now that the Whispers have arrived. In the television series adapts one of the comic storylines, it's possible that several characters' heads, and then they kind of go on into something that might be coming up from the comics soon. Then we've got some more here. It says, while the second half of Season 9, we really dive deeper into the story of the Whispers. At the end of the first half, obviously, we get this reveal that these zombies are not evolving, that they are some sort of strange human threat. We'll get to know more about this group and their brutal survival of the fittest philosophy and how it plays out in horrifying ways. So yeah, that we said there below, same as in the prior. Then she goes into a bit about how, there's going to be the Whispers obviously too, but also the world breaking down around them. So continuing to see just the decay and the breakdown of all the different things that we're used to in regular life. And then the deviations and surprises. So it says here, as with every season of the show, there's a certain amount of stuff from the comic that we follow relatively faithfully, but really more in terms of orange cones in the stories is kind of how we think about it. Showrunner Angela Kang told Deadline, like, here are these moments that we want to try to adapt, but a lot of times the routes that we take go in different directions. So the deviations they mention about Carl and some of the other things, of course, that have been different. Then it says here, the array of characters and the timeline that we're in are completely different. And so there are obviously going to be some deviations, Kang said. So, and obviously, Judith is a huge example of a character where she's going to be a huge character in the TV series version, and already is pretty much straight away, and has been really. And in the comics, she actually, spoiler warning, died at the prison. So that was way different from what we're seeing in the TV series. A lot of differences between the two already, and it looks like maybe they'll be going even further apart as things kind of continue on, with Rick leaving and everything else, of course. So there are some familiar markers to people who know the comics very well, but I'll say that there are some other surprises coming up along the way as well. I'll say that, this is obviously an iconic storyline from the comic, and there's certain memorable parts of the story that we want to tell, but it will be specific to the show. And that's true. Obviously, you can't do all the parts with Rick, and you can't do all the parts with Carl. So that, right in and of itself right there, makes it completely different, considering those were like your two forefront characters for the survivors in that in that storyline. In the TV series, obviously Daryl will probably take a lot of those parts, Michonne will too, and then maybe you have Henry take pretty much all of Carl's parts on too. And it says, I'll say that this is obviously an iconic storyline from the comics. There's a certain amount of memorable parts of the story we want to tell, but it'll be specific to the show. I think on screen it is a pretty striking introduction, and then we get into some meaty stuff with her pretty early in the back half of the season. Kang teased of the villainous glimpsed in the first trailer, second half of season 9. I'll say that off-screen Samantha could not be a lovelier person to work with. Yeah, truly enjoyed having Samantha, and I can't wait for people to see the work she's doing. I've been working on some of the episodes in post she's in, and I think she's just a tremendous actress. There's some really cool stuff with her coming up. And that's really cool because, as we can see already from the scenes and everything, it sure is freaky, right? It's really cool. So from time to time on the show, and such deviations will make the screenwriters more excited. I think that any time that path is not set, anytime you can't look at a comic book series and go, I know exactly what's going to happen, it makes things a little bit more interesting. Kirkman said, of course, during the Talking Dead prior. So in dealing with those unknowns, when we're in the writer's room, when we're working on season 9, all those changes that kind of snowball out from that, it just makes for a better show. And yeah, it's true. I think they're pretty much proved at this point that they can deviate a lot from the comics, even with having characters leave and whatever, or killed off or what have you. And it maybe just even makes things even more exciting, because if they follow too closely, show's been going on too long now. If it's too predictable, if it's too kind of the same exact way as the comics was all the time, then people might get bored of it. So it certainly has changed up enough things, maybe too many, but certainly hasn't been in any danger of being too similar to the comics, that's for sure. So that'll be it for my video for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about the Whispers below. As you guys know from all the videos I've been doing, I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing right now. I think that they're going to go down as great Walking Dead villains. And, Beta especially, I think we're excited to see. Alpha in the TV series, just very creepy. And, looks like we're going to see some brutal stuff from them. Maybe some backstory stuff, too, about how they sort of became this way early on in this back half. So, can't wait for February 10th. Really excited to see it. If you guys have any questions you want to do a Q&A this week, send me anything you got. If you have any video suggestions, send them to me for anything you want to see. And lots more videos to come this year for Walking Dead. We'd like to do at least a couple a week as we get closer here to the release for the back half, and then of course we'll do lots. Thumb up the video if you don't mind. Subscribe if you're new, and thank you guys all for subscribing. Thank you guys for all your support, and I'll see you again soon. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon. Alpha wouldn't like me. I talk too much, and I'm too loud. Did a Beta cut my head off?